A common question I get asked a lot: how do gas stations make money? Especially when they hear the gasoline part does not make much of it. So, how do we make money? Would you like to know? Well, let's do some calculation.
Welcome to the one and only Gas Station Business 101 podcast, where you can learn all the secrets about how to start and operate a gas station business successfully and make money. This podcast is brought to you by the good folks at GSB Academy Publishing Company. And now, here is your host, Shabbir Hossain.
Welcome to Gas Station Business 101 podcast. I am Shabbir Hossain, and this is episode number 38. This is the only show of its kind where we discuss how to start, run, and grow a gas station business successfully. And I give you the inside look at many real-life case studies so you can follow and become successful in this business. Now, let's get into the topic of today. How do gas stations make money? Now, there are three ways a typical gas station / convenience stores usually generate income or profit. Number one would be from the sale of fuel or gasoline. Number two would be where we generate profit from the sales of merchandise, which is the general groceries, soda, soft drinks, and all that. We will get into every category in a second. But the first one, as I said, is fuel or the gasoline. The second would be from merchandise sales. And the third would be from all other sources of revenue, such as the items that you do not sell literally to make money, but there are services that you provide. For example, your ATM machines, to your air vacuum machines, to your phone card sales, and lottery. Again, you sell lottery, but it's not a product that you sell. It's more like a service. So I put that under other sources of revenue. Now, let's start from the top and see how we generate profit from each of these. And then we'll see if gas station really makes money or not. As I said, the very first category is from fuel sales. Well, anybody that knows a little bit about gas station business or convenience store business, they already have heard from people that even though they're called gas stations, but most gas station owners complain that they don't make much money on gasoline. And that is not entirely false. That is true to a degree. And let me explain how it is true to a degree. Let's say a gas station in your neighborhood sells 100,000 gallons of gasoline a month. I'm just taking a number on top of my head. It's not every gas station out there in your neighborhood or any neighborhood selling 100,000 gallons, but typically a decent gas station should have sales such as 100,000 or close to 100,000 gallons of fuel cells. If they're branded with few pumps or unbranded with quite a few pumps and they're well designed and well maintained and in a very good location, they generally tend to do 100,000 or much more than that. But let's take the benchmark amount or number that is 100,000. So let's say a gas station that is selling or pumping 100,000 gallons fuel a month. Out of that 100,000, how much is regular unleaded versus mid-grade versus premium? And lastly, if that station has diesel fuel, and how much of it is diesel? Usually, typically speaking, a gas station's sales, if you take the 100,000 again, I will go with the percentage. Let's say out of that 100,000 gallons, if we think of it as 100% of gasoline sales, or fuel sales rather, out of that 100, mostly, typically 80% of that sales should come from regular unleaded only, meaning the regular fuel, which usually has the least amount of margin, or the gas station owners usually make the least amount of profit selling regular unleaded fuel because it is a very competitive product. So I have taken many averages on many gas stations over many years. And I have seen that most of the time, even though the owners say that they do not make any money on regular unleaded, which at times it is true, there are times in a crunch time where they may even lose a penny or two in selling regular fuel by the pressure of bigger competitors. For, let's say, if you have a very highly competitive national chain next to your store, they may buy fuel at a discounted price for various reasons. It is not illegal, but there are various reasons they may be able to buy fuel at a much cheaper price than you do, and thus they can sell at a much cheaper price, which may force you to sell regular unleaded at a cost or even a couple of cents below your cost. But that does not happen every day. It may happen a week or two in a month, and then another 3 months later you may get into that crunch again. But if you take an average of 12 months, typically even in a tough market, you will see you're averaging about 5 to 7 cents a gallon. That's typically the rule of thumb on regular unleaded. Now, there are many exceptions to that. There are stores that all around the year usually make 12 to 15 cents a gallon. But typically speaking, if you take the average of all US gas stations, you may see that they're averaging around 5 to 9 cents a gallon. Now, as I said, there are crunch times, but there are times when prices are falling and your prices are falling as well, but not as fast as the market. That's when we tend to pick up extra margin. And that is what makes up for that loss that we have taken a month before or 3 months before for a week or 2 weeks in a row. So average, again, as I said, let's say 5 to 7 cents. So let's take the middle number, which is 6 cents. From 5 to 7, we'll go with the middle number, average of 5 and 7. So if your year-round sale is at 6 cents a gallon profit, let's take the monthly 100,000 gallon sales volume, and out of that 100, you sold 80,000 gallons worth of regular unleaded, right? The 80%. So out of that 80%, you made 6 cents a gallon. So in translation, if you translate that money or that fuel gallons, which is 80,000 times 6 cents a gallon, should translate into $4,800 for that month of regular unleaded profit that you made out of selling that much fuel. Now let's take a look at the other 20,000 gallons. In that other 20,000 gallons, you sold some of it in mid-grade, some of it in premium, and if you have diesel, you sold some diesel fuel. So typically speaking, again, over the years, the averages that I've seen, if you, again, have taken a 100,000 gallon store, as I said, typically 80% of it is regular unleaded. Then about 12% to 14% would be premium. And another 7 to 8% would be mid-grade. Mid-grade usually sells less than premium because there are cars that are equipped only for premium, so people tend to buy more premium than mid-grade. You do not find a car that says mid-grade only. No, usually it says regular unleaded or it may say premium unleaded. The mid-grade is a feel-good gasoline. You're not buying the cheapest one. You're not buying the most expensive one, so you're trying to stay in the middle. When it comes to fuel, as I said, that's why either you will sell regular, which is most of the case, you will sell most regular, but there are people that want to buy the most expensive kind of gasoline because either their car requires it or they think it is the best thing to do for their cars, and thus they will buy premium fuel. See, I left out the diesel fuel because not every gas station has diesel fuel. So in this event, let's say this station, that 100,000 gallon store, has diesel fuel. In that event, let's reduce the premium to 12 and then another 5% for mid-grade. So 12 plus 5 is 17. So another 3% would be diesel fuel in this case. So out of that 20,000, if you sold 12% premium, that would translate to 12,000 gallon of premium fuel. And if you recall, the mid-grade was only 5%, so that would be 5,000 gallon mid-grade. Because remember, our total was 100,000 gallons. So 100,000, 5% of 100,000 is 5,000 gallons. And similarly, 3% diesel would make it 3,000 gallon diesel fuel. Now let's look at premium fuel. Typically, as I said, you make the least amount of money on regular unleaded, but you make the most money in diesel and premium. Sometimes you make more on diesel than premium, and other times you make more on premium than diesel, depending on how your competitors are pricing their fuel around you. Let's say if you do not have anybody selling diesel fuel within next few miles around you, then you typically tend to sell it for a little bit higher price because you know you're not competing with anybody in the near vicinity. But let's get back to mid and premium first. Typically, mid-grade is about 10 cents higher in cost than your regular unleaded. And premium is typically about 50 cents higher in cost than regular unleaded. See, don't get confused. I did not compare mid to premium. I compared both to regular unleaded. As I said, 10 cents higher typically from regular to mid-grade, and 50 cents higher from regular to premium. That's the average difference between the cost. So if regular unleaded cost you $2 to buy each gallon today, your plus unleaded would cost you $2.10 per gallon today, and premium would be at $2.50. So if you're going with our formula, you should be selling regular at $2.06, and for the mid-grade, you should not be selling it at $2.16. It's usually, if you noticed in any gas stations around you, there is about a 25 cents to 30 cents difference between regular and plus. So you will price it right around $2.30 to $2.35 range. So let's say you're pricing it at $2.30. Then you're picking up, because your cost is at $2.10. So if you're selling it at $2.30, you're picking up 20 cents a gallon right there. And that 20 cents at 5,000 gallons would make it about exactly $8,000 profit on that plus. And for premium, as you recall, you paid $2.50 a gallon. So you want to mark up premium because it is the premium. So typically, again, if you look in around your neighborhood, you will see that typically there is a difference of almost 85 cents between regular unleaded and premium unleaded. So in this event, you can safely price it around $2.80 to $2.85. So let's say you price it at $2.85 per gallon on premium fuel. You're picking up about 35 cents each gallon profit. Yes, you only sold 12,000 gallons. So if you multiply that 12,000 gallons with 35 cents each gallon, you will be making exactly $4,200 out of selling that 12,000 gallons premium fuel. And lastly, let's say you sold, 3,000 gallon diesel? Because I think we said 3%. So in selling 3,000 gallon diesel fuel, again, as I said, it's very similar to premium. So if we say we made 30 cents a gallon on diesel fuel and we only sold 3,000 gallons, then we're picking up $900 from selling 3,000 gallon diesel fuel. So let's add those up and let's take a look where we stand as far as profit from fuel. So the math looks like this. From regular unleaded, selling 80,000 gallons, we picked up $4,200, which is very little compared to selling all that 80,000 gallons of regular unleaded. Then we sold mid-grade. We made $1,000 from mid-grade. So 4,800 plus 1,000 is 5,800. Now let's add premium, which was at $4,200. So adding 58 plus 42 makes it $10,000 even. And lastly, from selling 3,000 gallon diesel fuel, we made $900. So the grand total is $10,900. That's the total profit that we made from selling all these 4 grades of fuel. Now, one thing I want to clarify here, when we get into a gas crunch, and what I mean by gas crunch is when prices are climbing up in the market, but our street price are not climbing up accordingly. For example, let's say the prices are going up, and today the price of regular unleaded is at $2, and I bought a load of fuel for $2 a gallon. But my price was set 3 days ago at $2.02 because back then I bought it for $1.91. But now the price has gone up by 9 cents. But since I bought the load of fuel today, I can't just go up to $2.09 to keep up the margin because nobody else has moved to that price. So they may move in 2 days, not today, but in tomorrow, maybe day after tomorrow. So I may have to take loss or sell it at cost today and tomorrow. See, this is a crunch time. But always remember, that's why the regular price, profit margin always drops down. There are times you will be making 8, 9, 10, 12, 15 cents a gallon. But when you take an average, it ends up being 5 to 7 cents or 9 cents because of these crunch times. But these crunch times do not apply as much on the plus, premium, or diesel, typically speaking. And the reason I kept saying typically speaking, because there are exceptions to this rule. Depending on where you are, you may have a very competitive market. You may have a retailer or two very close to you who sells diesel at very cheaper price. And in that case, you may not be able to make that 30, 35 cents a gallon. So there are exceptions. But again, generally speaking, if a gas station carries diesel, not a truck stop, you generally tend to make a little bit more margin on diesel fuel than, let's say, your regular or plus, which is the mid-grade. So again, when this crunch comes, you compete on the regular price mostly, not on the plus, premium, or diesel. So even though you're giving away your regular unleaded by selling it at 2 cents a gallon profit, you may still be making 25 or 20 cents to 15 cents on a gallon of mid-grade and 25 to 35 cents profit on the premium fuel, and similarly on diesel as well. So again, as you can see that even when times are bad, your profit margin may fluctuate a little bit over a month. Let's say month of November, because the prices were going up and up and up, you ended up making only $7,000 that month from the fuel cells. Exact same fuel cells, which is 100,000 gallons. We just calculated. But then again, month of December, the prices didn't go up anymore and it stabilized. So the market was stable. In that month, you picked up $12,000 profit from fuel. And in January, let's say you picked up again $12,000 from gasoline sales. So remember, you dropped your profit in the month of November. Our estimation was $10,900. And if you made $7,000, that means you lost almost $4,000 of profit because you were expecting the profit of $10,900. But again, on the month of December and January, you picked up $2,000 extra each month. So the average comes back up to that $10,900 or similar dollar amount. So if you lose money or don't make as much in a month, don't panic because there are other months where you will make up for it. And over a year of average, it will come back to the industry standard like I was talking about. Now let's get into number 2, which is the profit from merchandise sales. Now as for merchandise sales, now there are profit margins, better profit margins in this category than fuel, of course. And that's why a lot of people or a lot of stores you have seen around town that only sells grocery items or convenience items and not fuel, because they know, or some of them know, that fuel doesn't make much money, so why bother with it? Or it is too expensive to carry fuel, because if you have a convenience store without fuel, to add fuel to that store can be very expensive. installing underground tanks to pumps, fulfilling all the regulations from all these governmental agencies can be in hundreds of thousands of dollars. So they're happy selling cigarettes, beer, and tobacco and all that because they have greater margin. But when you have fuel, that is a magnet to bring people inside the store or inside your parking lot, rather. So typically, that's why gas stations tend to do much better in profit than regular convenience stores without fuel. Now, let's break down what's in convenience stores. Usually, a regular gas station convenience store carries anywhere from 1,500 to 2,000 SKU or stock keeping unit, which is the barcode. Every product has a unique barcode. And when I say 1,500 to 2,000 SKU, meaning 1,500 to 2,000 unique items that each have a different barcode, because every product has a variation. Let's say king size Baby Ruth candy bar versus the regular size Baby Ruth candy bar. They both are two different products because they are two different barcodes. So you have to buy two different candy bars to sell both those regular and king size. And each of those are counting as one SKU. What we do in convenience stores is we divide our store into departments because every department is different than the other. And the profit margin varies widely between departments. So let's divide and talk about those departments, see what they are and what profit margin do they tend to follow. For example, one important department would be cigarettes, because most convenience stores, especially in the South, sells a lot of cigarettes. So that is our number one department. And the profit margin typically range from 13 to 17% on cigarettes. Then comes tobacco, which is about 25 to 30% profit margin in tobacco, which is much higher than cigarettes. Then comes beer and wine, the alcohol. And again, beer, we tend to make a little bit less than wine. So in beer sales, I've noticed over the years that we tend to make about 22 to 23%. And in wine, we do about 30% profit margin. Then comes soda. In soda, when I say soda, that means the Pepsi, the Coke, the water, and all the other types of drinks that you buy in a typical convenience stores. We tend to generate about 35% profit margin out of those. Then comes coffee and fountain. Those are the ones that are very high profit margin, typically around 50% profit margin on those, even though the sales are usually very low on those. Then some stores are equipped with deli food where they sell hot food, sandwiches to lunches to pizzas and hot dogs. They also have very high profit margin. So industry standard daily profit that I've seen ranges from 40 to 55%, depending on how you price your food. If you price it lower to bring more customers in, your profit margin may be around 40-45%. And if you have established business that you have traffic always coming through, then you can go as high as 55%. That's why if you ever bought a hot dog from a gas station or for example, a barbecue sandwich, you have seen the price range from 99 cents from a barbecue sandwich, for a barbecue sandwich, to about $1.79. Maybe it's the same size and same quality. And in both price structures, you still make money. You don't lose money, but in one you make very little, the other one you make very good money. But the margin can vary so widely because the profitability on those food items are big. Then there is another category, which is automotive supplies and motor oil. Every convenience stores, gas stations carry these because people tend to buy those automotive supplies, the fuses, the jumper cables, the light fuses, light bulbs, and motor oils. They tend to also have very high profit margin, again around 45 to 50%. Then comes candy, my favorite department of all, because candy is a high profit margin item and they sell well in most convenience stores because people are addicted to sugar and chocolate. In candy, we typically tend to pick up about 37 to 40% margin. Then comes snacks, cookies, cakes, and those sort of things. And again, those are decent profit margin items, right around 35 to 40 again. And lastly, the grocery items, the ketchup, the rice, the beans, the canned foods, and all that. Those are usually around 33% margin, even though the sales of those have declined over the years for convenience stores. People hardly ever buy a bottle of ketchup or rice, beans, and those sort of things because there are more grocery stores, there are more grocery type stores around everywhere, and people tend to get a better bargain on those. And these are not as impulse items as a candy bar. So if you look at these departments, let's break down how much percentage of sales they carry in a typical convenience stores. And again, if you're already in this business, you may beg to differ with me, saying that your store sells more food than beer or your store sells more tobacco than cigarettes, but that's out of the norm. I have seen enough stores where I have set up a norm, like if it's a typical gas station, this is how the departments will be selling by percentage. For example, cigarettes will be around anywhere from 30 to as high as 50% of your sales will be coming from cigarettes. So let's do some math once again. Okay, for example, we will go within store that, let's say, is doing $100,000 of inside merchandise sales. Just it will make our life easier in calculation. And there are many stores that do $100,000 merchandise sales or more. So in a $100,000 store, typically we will go with a range of profit margin and the average percentage of sales that usually a convenience store does in all these department wise. So what I have done is I have taken the lowest part of the profit margin. Let's say when I said cigarettes are usually from 13 to 17%, I went in the middle to 15. And when I said a beer is anywhere from 17 to 24%, I've gone with 20%. So I'm staying in the middle, and I'm not taking the high end of the profit margin, and I'm not going with the lowest end of the profit margin. So I tried to round it off as much as I can, but let's go with these numbers. $100,000 sales in a convenience stores, where 30% sales of that comes from a cigarette. And if we make 15% on cigarettes, then we're making $4,500 from that sales of cigarettes. This is the profit, $4,500 profit for that month from cigarettes. Next item is tobacco. Let's say this store sells 10% tobacco, which is $10,000, because $100,000 is our total sales. Out of that, 10% is $10,000. So the store sold $10,000 of tobacco at 25% margin. Remember, I said tobacco has higher profit margin. And at that, you made $2,500 from that sales. The next category is beer and wine. And again, if you recall, I said beer is usually from 17 to 19, 20%, and wine is typically 25 to 30%. But just to be on the safe side, I calculated at 20% profit margin for beer and wine both. So at 20% sales, which is $20,000 worth of beer sales, at 20% margin, sounds a little confusing because both numbers are 20, but the profit dollar amount is $4,000 from beer sales. The next would be soda. And again, soda carries about 20% sales of a total convenience stores. So that would mean $20,000 worth of soda sales. And we tend to make anywhere from 30 to 35% on soda profit. So in this case, I just did 30%. I took the profit margin of 30, which is at the low end. So if you sold $20,000 worth of soda and made 30% profit, that would translate into $6,000 of profit. Next item would be deli. If your store has deli, then let's say the deli sales are only 10% of your store sales, which is about $10,000 worth of deli sales, which is not much. If you have a decent deli, you will see that your sales are typically anywhere from 16 to 20% of your total convenience store sales. But I'm going with the low end. Let's say $10,000 of the deli food in a month where the store does $100,000. And if you recall, the profit margin of deli is anywhere from 40 to 50%. And this time I'm going with 40% profit margin. That would translate to $4,000 profit from deli food items. And lastly, remember the other mini categories that I talked about, which are automotive supplies, motor oil, candy, snacks, cookies, and cakes, and other grocery items like ketchup, rice, beans, and canned goods. Let's say all those combined are 10%, because some of those are declining other than candy. Candy is not declining, but motor oil sales and ketchup, rice, beans, and those type of grocery items sales have been in the decline for convenience store for many years. And that is fine because we're picking up on other categories. So let's say all these categories combined are about 10%. And if you recall, I just spoke about the profit margin of automotive, motor oil, candy, snacks, and grocery items, which they all range from 30 to 40 to 50% as a matter of fact. So if we go with in the middle, which is 30 to 50%, the middle is 40%. So out of the last 10% sales, you made 40% profit. That would translate to $4,000 of profit for your store. So if you add all this from cigarette to the last one, which was, let's say, 4,500 plus 2,500 plus 4,000 plus 6,000 plus 4,000 plus 4,000 adds up to $25,000 gross profit from your merchandise sales. If you remember, we made $10,900 from selling 100,000 gallons of fuel. And you see, when you sold $100,000 worth of merchandise, you made much more money, almost 2.5 times than what you made from selling fuel. Definitely. That's why people like more convenience store type merchandise, because they know they make more money selling those things. Last category on our list is from other revenue, as I said. And what are those other revenues? Those revenues come from if you have an ATM machine installed in your store. Typically in any gas stations, you noticed when you insert your debit card or ATM check card to that machine, first thing that it tells you is there is a service charge that they will charge for you to take money out of that machine. And that service charge typically is anywhere from $1.50 to about $3.50. In our stores, they're about $2.50, which I like to stay in the middle, so I set it up where it's only $2.50. And if you have a decent ATM machine with decent traffic in your store, you will typically see an income of roughly around $1,000 from an ATM machine, which is the standard for most gas stations. Unless your gas station is a very slow station, not very much traffic, then you will not see that much income. You may see $400 or $500. But if you have a decent sized stores with decent amount of traffic, then the profit you will generate out of owning that ATM machine, you have to own your own machine, you will see an income of roughly about $1,000. Because that's the standard, that's the average I have seen. I have seen ATM machine in one of our store that generated almost $3,000 a month profit from those service charges, because it was in an area where there were a lot of people on EBT system or the food stamp system. And these people, every EBT card comes with part of it they can take as a cash and part of it they can only buy food with. And beginning of the month, every month, government, I believe the way it works is they refill those cards or they put money into those accounts at the beginning of the month. So every month we've noticed the first 7 days we generated, let's say, $1,800, $1,900 worth of profit out of those machines. And the rest of the month brought up another $1,200, added up to be about $3,000. But anyway, so let's say we picked up another $1,000 from ATM machine. Every gas station has air machine and vacuum machine. Typically, if you're a smart business owner, you would own your own machine where you would get anywhere from $300 to $500 a month out of those air vacuum machines. Let's say you don't make $300, $500, you make only $200. That's fine. At least it is an income. It can pay the phone bill for your store. So that is something to look for. Next would be phone cards. Most gas stations, again, sells phone cards. These are the type of cards where if you have a prepaid phone, you buy those minutes. Let's say you have a prepaid phone from AT&T and you need to buy $10 worth of card. You can go into a store, ask for a $10 card. They will print you one and you insert that code into your phone and you get $10 worth of talk time. Profit margin on phone cards are typically very low nowadays. And it is anywhere from 6 to 10%. So even if you make 6%, you're not selling any product. You're just punching in a code, printing out a receipt, and giving it to them. And if you're picking up 6 to 7% just for doing that, why not? And I have seen in convenience stores that a store can generate around $200 to $300 profit from this phone card sales. Then there are states where game machines are legal in a convenience store. And when I say game machines, I do not mean casino-style slot machine or things like that. I'm talking about game machine where there are a lot of stuffed animals, and you know how you put 3 quarters, and then there is a fork that you navigate to grab one of those stuffed bear or other things. And, it's a fun thing. And there are similar game machines in different states that are legal. And if you have one of those, I've seen in many areas where they have one of those machines and it doesn't take much space, but it can bring you a couple of $100 a month profit. Because a lot of people enjoy doing that. When they walk in with a couple of kids, they all want to go and try to grab a bear. And they say, I want to, and the kid fails first time, so he asks his dad to give him another 3 quarters so he can try one more time. Then the dad comes, tries a couple of more times. Before you know it, you just made $3, $4 out of those kids and their father in just 10 minutes. So that is a good income, a good revenue, and clean fun for everybody. Then another item is lottery. And if you're in one of those states like Florida and other states where lottery is legal, you can sell lottery on behalf of the government and make another about 10% profit, anywhere from 7 to 10%, depending on what state again. And we all know that there is lottery sales that are very high in some convenience stores. And there are convenience stores that can make $4,000 to $5,000 on just the commission of sales of the lottery tickets. But if you're not in one of those states like us, I'm in Alabama, and we do not have lottery, so I don't have that income. But the people that have lottery in other states can make anywhere from $1,500 to $5,000 extra from that machine. And lastly, another new technology that can bring you some money is pay at the pump ad, which is nowadays you have pulled into pumps where there is a small screen and that shows different types of advertising. And if you own your own equipment, your own pumps and everything else, and if you're an unbranded store, they won't let you do it in a branded store. If you're an Exxon, Chevron, most likely they won't allow you to do that. But if you're an unbranded, you can sell that ad spot to a network. And it is usually a local companies that sponsor these things and they pay you a monthly revenue. It can, depending on your volume, they can write you a check every month for anywhere from $300 to $700, $800, $900, maybe $1,000 even if you're a high volume store. So that is another thing to look at. Now, what I want to do is I want to also add up all these incomes and then compare it to the expense to see how can a typical gas station make money. That's the last part of our equation. So let's do that. Let's add up the income. Okay, from fuel, we made $10,900. From merchandise profit, we generated $25,000 even. Now, from other income, as you recall, we will take the lowest amount of every one of those, which is ATM, we calculate at $1,000, air machine $200, phone card machine $200, game machine $200, and let's get the lottery in there, but not the pay at the pump display ad because it's not very common. But lottery is very common. So let's say, as I said, game machine is $200 and lottery, let's say we only made $2,000 from lottery revenue commission rather. That would, all those added would come to $3,600 from other income. So if we add all of those together, 10,900, 25,000, and 3,600, they all come to $39,500 of gross profit, not net, gross profit. Now let's look at expenses. But before I go into expenses, I know I'm mentioning a lot of numbers. And some of you, if you're driving and listening, if you're working out and listening to me, you may not get the whole picture just listening to me quoting numbers after numbers. So what I will do for you is I will put all these numbers in a profit and loss type statement, which is easy to understand for everybody and which I use and I have used for many other previous episodes. So feel free to go to my website, which is gasstationbusiness101.com, and go under podcast and you will see episode 38. And in that show note, you will see that P&L that would make you understand the numbers easily and much better way. But let me go ahead and let's explain or get into the expense part of it, because we've been only talking about making money. Now we need to spend some as well. So as for expenses, the standard expense are rent or mortgage. So in a gas station that's doing 100,000 gallons of fuel, 100,000 inside, typically can go for $1 million, at least $1 million. And if you buy a store for $1 million with a average interest rate, your mortgage should be right around $7,000 to $8,000. Let's take the high number, which is $8,000. Then you will have insurance and taxes on top of it, because you have to insure your place and you have to pay property tax on that property. So in that event, let's say $1,500 counts for your property taxes and insurance, and $8,000 for your mortgage, right? And running a store that big with deli requires employees. And typically I've seen that the store that I have deli usually takes about $8,000 to $9,000, at times $10,000 of payroll dollars. So in this event, let's go with the number 9,000. So your payroll, these are all monthly numbers, by the way. So let's say your payroll is at $9,000. And you noticed how I'm just taking round numbers because it's easier to calculate and easier to get your head around these round figure numbers. Next would be utility bills, your power, your water, your trash service, your phone, your internet. All of those can run into right around $3,500 for a typical average decent size gas station. Even though I know in some of our stores it's much lower, but I'm going with the high numbers. That way there is no misunderstanding, no heartbreaking if we make anything less than that. So always take the high number when it comes to expense. That way you will have more realistic numbers. And this way, if you make more money, you will be happy and not sad at the end of the month. Next would be credit card fees. Remember, all these fuel that you're selling, all these merchandise you're selling, 50% of it may be sold on credit cards, and there's a fee involved for accepting various credit cards. So in a gas station of this size, my calculation is you will pay around $2,500 to $3,500 worth of credit card fees. Let's go with the number $3,500 in this case. And lastly, all the miscellaneous, the license renewal fee, the small maintenance, the nozzle replacement of your pump or the hose replacement for your pump. Then you maybe have to call somebody to do some pressure washing for your front parking lot, whatever it is. Let's say every month you spend $500 for maintenance and repair and all other expenses. So if you add all of those up, your total expense comes to $25,500. So let's do the math simply now. We will take all our gross profit added together and subtracted from all the expenses that we have had so far. And that way we get to our net profit number for that month. So $39,500 was our gross profit from selling all three different categories. And we will subtract $25,500 from it because that's the expense that we had to pay to get to these sales. So for that month, our profit ended up being $14,000 even. $39,500 minus $25,500 is about $14,000. So for this store, which is a typical store, standard store, can make $14,000 profit in a month. Now, there are other ways to make more money on this type of stores. For example, if you manage the store yourself, your payroll dollar goes down, plus you pay more attention to what you're running out of, what people need. You have more personal attention to your customers. So every time you pay more attention to this type of things, the couple of things happen. One is your theft goes down significantly, and your customer service increases significantly as well. So as you're reducing your cost, you're increasing your profitability. So in a store such as this, if you run it hands-on, you can make another $3,000-$4,000 easily from this store. But standard, like we calculated, is $14,000 profit from this store. Now, if you come across a store that only does $50,000 sales and 30,000 gallon fuel, would that make money? Maybe, depending on how much the rent is, how much your expense is, does it have a deli, what are the competitors in that area, how much is your fuel profit in that area. Because I have seen stores that only doing 40,000 gallon gasoline, but still making $9,000 to $10,000 a month fuel profit, because they all year around, they generate higher profit than a lot of other stores around them, because in this specific store that I'm talking about right now, it doesn't have any immediate competitors within a mile or two. So they tend to charge higher price, and people have no other option to go stop and shop there. And their inside sales, I believe, is around 50 to 60,000. So that store, if I have to do a P&L on that store, I would imagine that store is generating anywhere from $12,000 to $14,000 as well. Because again, as I said, just because your store is doing 100,000 gallon fuel or $100,000 inside sale doesn't mean it is the only good store. You can have a store that's selling much less than this and making more. Or you can, vice versa, you can have a store that's selling 200,000 gallons fuel and $200,000 inside merchandise, but your expense can be so high that you only make $5,000, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 out of that store, when a store that's doing 1/3 of this or 1/4 of this can make more than you. So again, it all depends on where the store is, what the profitability of that store is, what the expenses are, and what type of rent or mortgage structure they have. There are stores, there are properties in this country that can have a property tax almost equal to your mortgage payment, because the real estate is so high in some parts of the country. So see, you have to take all these into consideration and do the math individually for each store to figure out which one is profitable, which one is not. But to answer the question, do gas stations make money? The simple answer is yes. Because if you do this calculation, you will find the ones that are making money. Don't buy the ones that are not, because it's very simple to figure out if a store is making money or not. It's not a rocket science. It's very simple mathematics of adding numbers and subtracting numbers. That's about it. As long as you get the data, plug those in, and I've talked about it in many other episodes before, simply plug the numbers, figure out if this store is money-making one or not. If it is a money-making one, buy it. Like anything else, every business, there are bad ones and there are good ones. Just not in gas stations. In every business, there are good ones and there are bad ones. People tend to sell the bad businesses that they are not making money. But there are also good businesses that people are selling for other reasons. They're moving on to something else. Or they have too many stores. They want to downsize their operation and they want to get out of it. Or that there are companies that are downsizing and they're selling part of their portfolio. So whatever it is, generally, typically, gas station businesses are good and profitable business. And that's what I wanted to answer in this podcast episode. And I hope I was able to answer this question. This question comes up in a forum called Quora, Quora, where I answer many gas station related questions for many people. And one of these questions comes in different variation. People always ask, how do they make money? Do they make money how do I know if one of these stations that I'm looking to buy is making money? And I have received many emails regarding this, and I've addressed it before. But this time I wanted to just talk about a typical gas station that can be for sale. And this is how the numbers should look for that. So if you want to see how the P&L looks like I described, just go to my site and take a look at the P&L that I've created for this site. And again, this is an example. It's not a real life case study. It's an example of a typical gas station. Now, if you haven't signed up for my newsletter, please do so. And I know I'm a week behind on sending out those valuable emails that I talked about in last episode, because in 4th of July, I have taken off and I was off for a few days, so I haven't had a chance to do that. So you still have time. By all means, sign up for my newsletter. And this way I can send you those valuable series of emails that you can apply in your own business, and you can do all the research that you need to do before you buy your next gas station. And the best way to sign up for my newsletter is by going to my website, which is gasstationbusiness101.com. And as soon as you land on the front page, on the very bottom, it says subscribe to my newsletter. Or you can type in gasstationbusiness101.com/subscribe. And in the meantime, if you have any question that you need to ask me, by all means, feel free to send me an email at shabbir@gasstationbusiness101.com. That's my email address. And I do check my email often. So feel free to send me any question you have, and either I will answer you directly, or I will put your question in the next Q&A episode that I will have in a few weeks, and I will answer your question via the podcast. And lastly, if you haven't joined my Facebook group, you can do so by going to Facebook, or better yet, you can just type my name, shabbirhossain.net, and it will take you to my Facebook group. And you can join there and ask me a question in Facebook as well. But email may be the better option, as I check my email more often than I do Facebook. I'm not much into social media yet, but I'm into email, so feel free to do so. And thank you once again for tuning into my podcast and spending your valuable time listening to me. I hope I'm able to add value for your time. Thanks once again, and I will see you in the next episode.
This has been the one and only Gas Station Business 101 podcast with your host, Shabbir Hossain. This podcast was brought to you by CSB Academy Publishing Company. Be sure to join us next time as we share with you the secrets about how to start and operate a gas station business successfully and make money.